Hello, my name is Eric Muncho, and I'm here to talk to you about the ethics behind tracking cookies. In order to understand what we call tracking cookies, we must first look at the history behind it. These cookies were designed for electronic commerce so that web servers could identify where in the transaction process users were at. They were first developed by Netscape, and they're defined as small files capable of temporarily storing small amounts of information on a user's hard drive. Over time, companies learned they were much more valuable to personalize a user's web experience, thus enhancing the perceived value to the customer. Today, cookies can be used to do as much as predict users' tastes. User profiling is a very standard method for most popular websites, and it's a known fact that 97%, are uncomfortable with the prospect of user profiling with links to real-world personal information. That statistic about users was taken out of Business Week in a Harris poll that was conducted in 2001. The thing about these cookies is that customers do not realize that their digital fingerprints are highly prized amongst companies. They do not realize that their information is being shared amongst online markets. One of the main ways this is done is through behavioral targeting. As seen in the chart, certain users are targeted by what websites they go to. For example, if a user were to go to a news site, as seen on the top left portion of the graph, they could end up in an investor-targeted advertisement. Following down a little bit more, health and beauty sites / sections end up being targeted by women's interest groups from time to time. Lastly, travel review sites that are visited by consumers, computer users, what might have you, end up being targeted by travel shopper advertisements. Registering. Many people call it deadly in the world, but many users now have to register with sites in order to have their preferences saved. This provides the link between user preferences and their actual contact information, making target marketing very personal and questionably intrusive. In terms of ethics, using cookies is definitely a question of ethicality and at what point privacy can and will be invaded. However, one unquestionable point is the effects on a computer's hard drive. They tend to slow computer performance over time, and people who are unaware of these cookies and don't delete them on a timely basis often lose opportunity costs based on the time they waste waiting for their computer programs to load. Additionally, the cost of taking a computer into a technician, and lastly, purchasing software to remove cookies. Here's a screenshot of a McAfee security program used to remove cookies. As you can see, most of the cookies are from marketing companies used to store and gather information from the user. But we have to ask ourselves, what if they are removed? Businesses lose track of unique visitors as each time a user erases their cookies and revisits the site, they appear as a new visitor. This causes businesses problems. It gives them a less accurate view of who's visiting their site, inflated numbers of unique visitors, and more problems in cost marketing projection based on a lack of knowledge if they knew people were coming to their site. Right now there's very little regulation on part of the FTC. Businesses state that the use of their sites is entirely voluntary, which is a very good point. And the only step towards protecting adults has been the Children's Online Privacy Act that was enacted in 1998. Now, if we look at certain cases, we realize that tracking cookies are, and potentially can be, very intrusive. In 21 healthcare sites, according to this Georgetown study, information that was being shared between them, unbeknownst to patients, included names, ages, and even email addresses. If we were to look at potential problems, take predators. There's several case studies where the consumer can be very, very negatively affected. In this example, predators begin by predators begin by paying consumer data collection companies to collect information on customers. They then use browsing history to identify the consumer's risk level or credibility and give loans or determine interest rates based on this information. The same could be true with potential job recruiters. Job recruiters pay for marketing companies for access to their database. They then cross-reference applicants with their information in the database if available. And lastly, their decisions on who to hire are influenced by the applicant's personal browsing history. Last example, cell phones. If you yourself, you're browsing sites on your smartphone or PDA, you never know it, but your information may be tracked, and since the phone company already has your phone number, they could be sending you texts, phone calls, or anything else based on knowing your information and your likes, wants, and needs. Now we have to look at pushing the ethical line. In terms of your computer, you're not the only one who uses it. Companies do not realize this. So you may be sent ads that are inappropriate, that don't even reflect your interests based on who else has been on your computer. This could be especially bad at work if a person has visited a mature site and receives an inappropriate pop-up ad, which may even lead to a loss of job or, even worse, an environmental sexual harassment suit. From all of these case studies and any sort of objections that have been given throughout this presentation, we can conclude that although to what extent users' web surfing habits is an ethical debate, there are clear violations of privacy with regard to user information that are currently going on. In order to give web users freedom and convenience, and companies an awareness of who their audience is tracking, cookies cannot be removed. However, making the company clear to the use of the consumer, clear to the use of the information they are giving out is the best solution to the issue of tracking cookies. My name is Eric Muncho. Thank you for your time, and this is for Dr. Seal's MBAA 609 class.